Today we are going to work on the Spring MVC application with Java config approach. Okay, so as part of our last session, what we have covered, how to work with the Spring MVC application by using the XML approach. So in the XML approach, let me tell you, so we have used web.xml to configure our dispatcher servlet and the URL pattern to which whenever the user or client sends the request, so the request will first come to the dispatcher servlet, and from the dispatcher servlet it will map to the URL to which controller it should map. Okay, so that we have studied as part of our last class. Okay, and in the dispatcher servlet we are configuring our bean and the view resolver, all these things like we are configuring, right? And in the last session I have told you like how to create with the views as well. Okay, and what is the importance of view resolver. All these things I have already told. So I will recommend, if someone has not seen my last video, then uh, before continuing with this video I will recommend to see the last video. Okay, 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 without any further delay, let's get started. Okay. So MVC Java config approach, there are multiple ways to work with the MVC Java config approach. I will show you the approach one, how to work with the Java config approach. Okay, so I have created the folder structure to save some time. Already the how to create the web application I have already shown as part of the last session. So in order to work with the Java config approach, so what I can do, I will let me create quickly the some packages to for the package. Here we'll write all the configuration related stuffs, and I will write one more package like not config, then here is controller. Okay, so two package I have written. One will contain the configuration related stuffs, and another one is the controller. Okay, so here we are writing one to controller. That is not making any sense to differentiate. But whenever we'll work in a real-time environment, so there will be multiple controller and config files, right? And other stuffs are there, service DAO, all these things will be there. So it is better recommended to write in the package structure, right? So okay, so let me quickly create the controller first, then we'll though our request will come to the first dispatcher servlet, so we'll create the first the controller, then we'll configure the dispatcher servlet and the configuration file. Okay, so that I will show you. And in the controller package, let me create the class, for example, net banking. Okay, net banking application, just a dummy application, just to how we can work with the Java config approach. That is my intention to show you here. Okay, so that is why what I am doing, I am just taking the simple use case, okay, to demonstrate with the Java config approach, not the exact real use case. Okay, so in order to make this class as a controller class, we have to annotate this class as a controller. These things we have studied before, right? And we'll write one method, public string, only display method, simple display method, which will display the home page, whatever the content, like whenever the user gives the request for the login to the you can think of like whenever the user log into the system, then he or she should land into the home page, right? So that you can think of, right? So here we'll return the logical view name, that is home. Okay, and uh, in order to get the request, so we'll annotate this method as request mapping, and here we'll annotate slash home. So the base URL, and then slash home. If the client or user will send, then it will return me the, after processing, it will return me the controller will return the home logical view name. So that we are going to cover. This is the, we can rename it to this JSP file, the view name. I am configuring the view, and what we can do, we can configure this one, home.jsp. Okay, this is the one we can do, and I can paste it in the inside the webinf. Okay, so let me create the view as directory, and inside the views package we will put all these views. Okay, that is the standard we are following, right? So whatever the view we have, we will put inside the web and the inside the view folder, all the view will be there. Here we have taken JSP as the views. Okay. So if I open, so I can change this one, just a dummy message. Welcome to iNetBanking. iNetBanking app. Okay. This is the just a message I just wanted to show you. Okay. So now what my intention here is like, so let me show you. We have this is the previous application, right? Web.xml, welcome servlet XML. So in web.xml, what we are doing, we are configuring our dispatcher servlet and URL mapping. So in order to achieve the same steps by the by means of Java config approach, what we have to do here is like inside our application, we have to create one application that will implement the application initializer, web application initializer. Okay. So in order to do that, what I can do, I can write my web app initializer. Okay, my web app initializer. Okay, this is our the custom class which will implements web application initializer. Okay, so in order to get the whatever the things we are doing as part of the web.xml, I mean to say, in order to configure that our dispatcher servlet in the Java config approach, there are multiple ways. I have already told that. So one of the approaches to implement the web application initializer, but we have to write one class that should implement the web application initializer, and we have to override the on startup method that is there as part of the web application initializer. Okay, implement method, and inside this, okay, these things is not okay. We have overridden the on startup method. Here inside this on startup method, we will configure our dispatcher servlet, right? In order to because we are this is the replacement to the web.xml. Okay. So here here we will configure our dispatcher servlet. So in order to do that, and okay, let me write the dispatcher servlet, create dispatcher servlet. Okay, so dispatcher servlet is equals to new dispatcher servlet. As you can see, this dispatcher servlet will take web application context. Okay, it will take one web application context that we need to provide. In order to provide the web application context, okay, this is the web application context. So how we will get that? So in order to get that, what we have to do, here we are using the Java config approach and we are using the annotations things, right? So for that we have to use annotation config web application context. This is the container, like we have to use like here web application context, and we'll write new web application context. This is the things we have to create, and this web application we have passed. Okay, and once this dispatcher servlet we have created, then we have to register this dispatcher servlet, right? So in order to do that, what we have to do, register dispatcher servlet. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to now we have to register the dispatcher servlet. How we can do that? We have to call this web application context dot register, and here what we have to pass the application configuration. So let me create one application app.java app config. Okay, this is the app configuration. The app configuration, here we need to pass in the web application, we need to pass what? We need to pass the app configuration dot class. This is the things we need to pass in order to register, and then what we will do, and the servlet context, we have servlet context. Into this we have to add our servlet. Okay, so servlet inside the container, this is the not the servlet context, we can take as container. Okay, so this container dot add servlet, what we have to add. So in the web.xml, what we are doing, we are configuring our dispatcher servlet and the URL mapping. All these things we are doing. Okay, so here what we have to do, we have to configure like here in the web.xml we are providing like our servlet name. Okay, the same servlet name we are providing here, right? So in order to provide the servlet name here, what we have to do, we have to add servlet into the container, right? So here let me take as net banking dispatcher servlet. This is the servlet, and here we'll pass the dispatcher servlet. Okay, whatever we have created. So this is the dispatcher servlet we have already created, that we are adding into our the servlet context. It will on startup method, it taking the servlet context container. So we are adding whatever the servlet we have created, that we are adding, that means we are registering our servlet into the container, right? So if I assign local variable, and what it will do, it will create like these things, dispatcher, our dispatcher servlet. Okay, dispatcher servlet is now created and register. Okay, these stuffs already done, already completed. So now what we will do, so if I go to the web.xml, what we are doing, we are adding after this is done, then we are adding load on startup. What is the meaning of load on startup? Whenever we will provide the load on startup, so on the application deployed into the container, then the container will create the context, right? Instead of waiting the user to send the fast ticket, then only it should create the context object. So before that, if we provide the server load on startup, then it will create the server context object. Okay, and this is how what we can do. In order to write that, what we can do, we can configure the same thing here by calling the dispatcher servlet dot set load on startup. I think yes, set load on startup, that is the one we will provide here. And again in the web.xml, what we are providing, the URL pattern, that is the mapping things we are doing. The same mapping things how we can do, so how we can do that, the mapping things, net banking dispatcher servlet dot add mappings, what we will do, we will provide the URL patterns, right? URL patterns is like net banking slash star. That means what? That means whenever the user will send the request with the URL net banking and then anything, okay, so then to that request our servlet will respond, right? Okay, that is fine. Let me summarize what we have done so far. What we have done, we have configured our dispatcher servlet. We have written one class that implement the web application initializer. We have overridden the onStartup method. Here we have created the dispatcher servlet, and we have registered the dispatcher servlet. These the things we have done. And and then load on startup we have created, startup we have added, and the URL patterns, whatever to which URL it should respond. Okay, so that we have configured here. That part is done. Web.xml is done. Now it is time to configure the dispatcher servlet, like the bin configuration, right? The configuration file. In the Spring Bean configuration file, how we are writing the application context.xml. Here what we are doing, we are configuring our beans and all other stuffs, right? Here we have specifically we have configured the component scan, annotation driven, MVC annotation driven, and the view resolver. All these things we have done as part of this. Okay, so what we can do, the same thing how we can do, the app config we have written. Okay, in order to make this is our configuration class, right? So in order to make one class as a configuration class, what we have to do, we have to annotate this as configuration. Okay, so that it will this class will be marked as a configuration class. Okay, so that will be auto detected by the IOC container. Okay, fine. Then what things we are doing as part of this, we are doing the component scan, so that our package will be scanned. Inside the package, if the container will find that any class will return component, controller, service, all these things, then what it will do, it will create the bin id for that. Okay, in order to do that, what we can do, we can write component scan, and here inside this we can pass base package equals to this is a array, right? But we have only one package, one class. So what I can do, we are scanning one package, so we can pass com.prakash it. So com dot Prakash IT. This is the things we can pass. Okay, fine. So this is the things we can we have already done. And what else we are configuring as part of this bin configuration? We are configuring to work with the MVC application. So we are annotating like we are doing MVC annotation driven. So in order to do that, what we can do? MVC provides one annotation, enable web MVC. So what it will do, it will enable the to work with the web MVC application. This is the things we have done. Okay, and what else we have doing? We are configuring the view resolver. Okay, so this is a bin. The in order to write the bin inside a class, what we can do, we have to write one method, right? Public. So this is a what kind of bin? That is a internal resource view resolver, right? So we have to write internal resource view resolver, and this is view resolver is the method name. And inside that we have to return something like after the creation of the object we have to return that, right? So we have to write internal resource view resolver, and view resolver is equals to new internal resource view resolver. This is the things we have to write. And inside while configuring the internal resource view resolver, what we are doing, we are adding the suffix and the prefix. Okay, prefix and suffix we are adding. Okay, in order to resolve the whatever the logical view name, the controller, let me close this one and this one. Okay, so on processing of the request controller, so what it will do, it will return the logical view name. So in order to resolve that logical view name into the physical view, okay, so we will take the help of the view resolver. So here specifically we are taking the internal resource view resolver, which will resolve our the logical view name. So what it will do, it will resolve the view. Okay. So what we are doing, we should add the prefix view resolver dot set prefix. And what is the prefix? Prefix is webinf view webinf slash view slash web inf slash views slash. Okay, this is the prefix. And the suffix we need to add view resolver dot set suffix. Suffix is what? Suffix is dot JSP. We are working with the JSP as the view. Okay, this is the suffix we should add. And finally we should return the view resolver. Okay, whatever the things we are doing as part of the XML, the same thing we are working trying to work with the Java config approach. Okay, so in order to act as this method as a bin, so what we have to configure, we have to annotate this method as a bin annotation. Okay, so what we have done, we have written one annotation. Okay, what we have done, we have written one class, and we have annotated this class is a configuration class. We have annotated the configuration annotation. In order to scan all the bin IOC container should create, we have annotated with the component scan. And in order to work with the Spring MVC, we have enabled web MVC annotation. We have written on top of the class. Okay, and we have created one bin method. We have annotated this bin method in at the red bin. Okay, this is the things we have done. Okay, so here in this application we have already deleted this web.xml. Web.xml is not required since we are working with the Java config approach. Okay, so what we have done, we have written the controller, we have configured our dispatcher servlet here, and all the Spring configuration related stuffs we have done here. Okay, everything is set. Okay, so whenever the user send the request, the dispatchers, the URL should be the URL should be the context root, then net banking, then whatever the URL we have provided here, the slash home. Okay, so it's a time to deploy the application, right? So let me run this one, and if I choose MVC Java config approach 1, okay, apply, run. Okay, so now our application has been deployed to the Tomcat server, and you can see initializing servlet net banking dispatcher servlet. This is our dispatcher servlet, right? So how we can know that? So here we have provided add servlet. This is our servlet name, right? Dispatcher servlet, net banking dispatcher servlet. This is configured on the Tomcat server, and we have successfully deployed our application. Now I will take this context path and I'll try to access the application, right? This one slash I think net banking, then slash home. This is the URL. So if I slash webnf, see what are web underscore, that is hyphen. Maybe while writing this is a typo mistake. So here we have written view resolver. See, this is the underscore, that is the issue. Okay, apart from that, nothing. So let me restart the server now one more time to reflect the changes. Then we'll access. Now the application has been deployed successfully. Then we can retry to reflect the changes, right? So we are getting the message, welcome to iNet banking app. That means, what does it mean? It means like we are successfully able to work with the Spring MVC Java config approach. We are able to work with the Java config approach instead of the XML approach. We can also work with the Java config approach. This is the approach one I have told you. Okay, so how we can do that? We can write the one class that will implement the web application initializer, and we have to configure our dispatcher servlet inside that. Okay, in order to work with the Java config approach. This is the approach one, and there is approach 2. Here what we are doing in the approach 1, what we are doing, we are configuring our dispatcher servlet manually. Okay, and multiple lines of code we are writing. We are creating the dispatcher servlet, we are registering the dispatcher servlet into the container, and all these stuffs we are doing. Okay, so how to work with the approach 2, that we are going to see as part of the upcoming next video, I mean to say in the next videos. Okay, so that's all for this video. We'll meet in the next video with the Java config approach 2. Thank you.